welcome back to a Sporting Blizzard podcast. Today we have a different setup. I'm joined here, though, by my father, Tony Parrish. Say hello, everyone, Tony.
How's everybody doing today?
Yeah. We are doing this over the phone because some circumstances forced us to record it at different times, so if the audio's a little funky, we apologize, but this is the best way to get it out. And there's been a lot of football, a lot of stuff that's happened the past couple days. We're going to be talking about Panthers-Falcons and what happened there. The trade deadline, which is the most wild trade deadline in NFL history. We'll also be talking a little bit about the Christian McCaffrey deal. And we're going to have our picks for the week. But are you ready to get going?
I'm ready.
Okay, what were your thoughts on Panthers-Falcons, not Packers-Falcons, good God?
I'm surprised that the game was as close as it was. It just goes to show that even though both teams are making marketable improvements, they both have a long way to go. If you'll remember, you and I were watching the game together, and we both were like, no, the game's over. We left the establishment that we were at. We get home, and then you texted me and you said, did you see this went into overtime? So, I was a little shocked about that because, I guess that makes the old, game ain't over till the fat lady sings thing pretty accurate. But I think that Atlanta started utilizing, Pitts a little bit better, and it'll be interesting to see if they continue in that role over the next couple of weeks. So far as the Panthers, I just think that they're not in their way as much as they were with, the previous
Staff.
the previous staff, yes. And you can tell that the players are playing more free and open. So, it'll be interesting to see. This division is wide open. If you remember, I picked the Saints in this division, and to be quite honest, I don't know who's winning this division.
I was certain the Bucs would win it. I'm not certain the Bucs are a playoff team anymore. And I don't think you can be. When I looked at this game, there were a couple thoughts. My first thought was the wrong move firing Steve Wilkes in Arizona? That was my first thought. Because this team was coached well. They didn't commit that many penalties, if I'm remembering correctly. Their rushing attack was great with Foreman. Their defense was playing good. Steve Wilkes did a masterful job as the interim head coach, and if he keeps this up, it's going to be hard to say you got to replace him because, comparing to how they've played the past couple games he's been hired or interim job compared to Matt Rule, this team is like Two-Face from Batman. You have the ugly scarred up side, which was Matt Rule, and then you have the pretty side under Steve Wilkes.
Yeah, well, like I said, though, I'm not sure that if it's so much as coaching them up or just letting them play. A lot of the schemes seem to be the same. I just don't think that. I don't think that everybody was exactly happy, and he's letting the players play. So far as your comments about him being fired in Arizona, that shouldn't have happened anyway. And
no, it was stupid ownership getting in its way.
And I'd say a lot of Arizona fans are probably thinking the same thing right now.
And listen, I'm not saying Steve Wilkes is a bona fide head coach in the league. We don't know. But with how the Panthers have played in the past couple weeks, they look better. Because a couple weeks ago, I was like, they're the number one overall pick. This team is bad, bad, bad. Now they look competent. Incompetent might win them a division.
And they don't even have their star player anymore, so...
Oh, yeah, I know. Sam Darnold's not back yet. But you look at this team, though. They're still loaded defensively. Jeremy Chin and Brian Burns are two of the most underrated players in the NFL, in my opinion. Derek Brown is a very good defensive tackle for them. This team is loaded on defense, which is why I didn't think it was going to be a long rebuild for Carolina. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, you got to sell DJ Moore, you got to sell Brian Burns. That was not the route I would have taken. They have the talent, but they're missing key spots. I think this team needs to address O-line still, because I don't think their O-line is good. And I think they still need to address quarterback, because P.J. Walker, he has played fine, but there have been some issues in the games where you're like, he could have had that, he could have done this, he could have done that. But he's a very good backup. I think the Panthers are... I think they're still going to come in last in their division, but I think this is a major step up for how they were the first couple of weeks of the season. But
I would agree.
Now you look at the Falcons. They're number one in the division. Arthur Smith has done a masterful job as a head coach this year. When you look at the talent they lack, and with all the dead cap they have, with everything they gave up, I can't remember their exact salary cap next year that I'm going to look up here in a second, but they have a lot of cap space moving forward. Marcus Mariota is playing good football, and they're getting back one of their best, most versatile weapons in Cordero Patterson. I'm not saying this team's a playoff team. I'm not saying that you should be afraid of them come January, February. I'm not. Because I still think they have their limitations. But this is a very well-coached team, and when it comes to the playoffs, anything can happen. Just ask the Saints when they went up to Seattle. And
very true.
Real quick, they have $74 million in cap space next year. That's a lot of money. You can address a line, you can address defense, you can address whatever you want. And they just traded away Calvin Ridley, so they have more picks, they can do a lot more stuff, and they're on the up and up. And you can say, well, if Arthur Smith doesn't make the playoffs by year 4, he's fired. I don't believe so. I believe Arthur Blank knows where this team is, and he's going to give the GM and head coach time to create what he wants.
Oh, I would completely agree with that. Blank is one of the more knowledgeable owners in the league. He's very understanding, and I mean, let's face it, they were in some serious cap turmoil, and you can't just turn it around like that. They're playing a lot of rookies right now, so
yeah. Montana State boy Trey Anderson,
gotta love it.
Just. This is the team that it doesn't feel like they're anything special, but they are the team that can come up, sneak up on you, and just knock you out with one punch if they can. But do you have anything else to add to this game?
No. I think we've pretty much covered everything. Like I said, I think that they're both playing hard, but you can definitely tell in watching this game that they still have a long way to go. It'll still be interesting to see what happens throughout the year because, like we've said, that division is not very strong right now. And who knows, Tampa Bay may turn it around or they may not. We'll see. But Tampa Bay's got a lot of issues. Honestly, Tampa Bay might have more issues than either of these two teams currently.
Okay. So let's talk about all the trades that have gone down. And I got to ask you first, because this was the first big trade, what are your thoughts on CMC trade?
Well, I think we've kind of reiterated just by learning how much the actual trade value was worth and giving up an overall fourth-round pick.
Fourth overall pick.
Yes. If you combine all those picks together points-wise, that's considerable. But here's the thing. We will not be able to actually judge this trade until the end of the year and see what they do. If they win that Super Bowl with this trade, then, it was fine. It was worth it for them because their offense was sputtering as much as it was, and they weren't going to get there with what they had. So they went out and pulled the trigger. I guess if Garoppolo gets hurt, you can always just put him in the Wildcat formation, CMC in the Wildcat formation, and he can throw evidently. So, it'll be
better arm than his brother who actually plays quarterback. I watched Northern Colorado the other week, and it was a big mistake. Big mistake.
Oh, well.
Here's my... go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say... judging by what he was able to do in week 2 from being there, looks like Shanahan is going to find a plethora of opportunities for him. So as long as he stays healthy, he makes this offense a lot more dangerous than what they were without him.
Here are my thoughts on the deal. No matter what happens, it's a stupid trade. They go in the Super Bowl, it makes it slightly less stupid, but it's a stupid trade at the end of the day. The assets they gave up compared to what they could have gotten for less, I think makes up for it. Antonio Gibson could play the role. You'd give up a lot less. He's not as good as McCaffrey, but you also don't have the injury history. This is another thing we were talking about, because I saw when this trade went down, there were people like the Panthers got fleeced. They got fleeced. They didn't get a first-round pick. No one was giving up a first for Christian McCaffrey. Is there a running back in the NFL that you give up a first-round pick for?
No, not really. Maybe conditional first round pick, but not a first round pick. I mean, are there running backs in the NFL that you would have first round grades on how they play? Yeah, Saquon, he's playing lights out. The King, Henry, playing lights out. Dalvin Cook, amazing. Christian McCaffrey, amazing. There are these running backs that they are definitely first round grades, first round, worthy. The problem is teams don't focus as much on the run as what giving up a first round grade. And that's one of the reasons why you see all these receivers going around for firsts and seconds, because the receiver position is valued higher. Me, myself, I think that you run the ball first and then opens it up. But, offenses aren't built that way anymore, sadly.
My thing is, though, too, McCaffrey's close to 30. Running backs do not age gracefully. They age like milk. Once they expire, they're sour, and it's a bad, bad deal. Now, thankfully for them, Carolina's taken up some of the cap hit for it, which is huge when McCaffrey's contract is as big as it is. But I'm just going to list off. You said those overall picks came up, all of them combined came up to the 4th overall pick, correct?
That's what I heard. So that if you take the point totals for all those, it brings up the point total of the number 4 overall pick in the draft.
Do you know who the last 2 4th overall picks were?
No.
That'd be Ahmad Sauce Gardner, pretty good, and Kyle Pitts, pretty good. And I'm just going to read this off real quick. I'm going to read off a couple of the top running backs in the league. Nick Chubb, not a first-round pick. And this is rushing yards overall. This is not just opinion. This is statistics. Saquon Barkley, first-round pick. Derrick Henry, not a first-round pick. Josh Jacobs, first-round pick. Aaron Jones, not a first-round pick. Travis Etienne, first-round pick. Khalil Herbert, not a first-round pick. Miles Sanders, not a first-round pick. Dalvin Cook, not a first-round pick. Ramondre Stevenson, not a first-round pick. Lamar Jackson, not a running back. Dameon Pierce, not a first-round pick. Then we get to Christian McCaffrey, a first-round pick. So for the 4th overall pick, he's not playing up to the best running back in the league. And we continue. The guy that they just traded away, and we're going to talk about him in a second, Jeff Wilson, has less than 60 rushing yards than Christian McCaffrey. Not a first-round pick. Tony Pollard, a guy who's in a split-back situation in Dallas. Not a first-round pick. Only 19 less rushing yards. Dameon Pierce, a rookie, 3rd-round pick, has 14 more rushing yards. You can just keep on going out. Breece Hall, who would probably be further ahead if he wasn't hurt, 463 rushing yards, not a first-round pick. Kenneth Walker, who's just starting to show as a rookie, not a first-round pick, barely behind McCaffrey. This trade has major, major desperation stink to it. It's a team that's trying to stay alive. They're trying to keep up with the Seahawks. They're struggling to keep up with Geno Smith. If you told me that in the offseason, I would have smacked you. And I'm pretty sure you would have smacked me too for saying that. Am I wrong?
Well, I didn't think that the Seahawks were going to be doing what they're doing right now. No. And other than Pete Carroll, I don't think anybody did. But I think one of the things that you are, you're looking at statistics, and statistics are all fine and great, but the problem is statistics don't tell the full story, because you put a lot of those running backs behind Carolina's offensive line and the play calling that was happening, and see what happens, right? I think moving forward, prime example, McCaffrey had 96 yards this weekend, right? What does that put him on the rushing statistics for this weekend? Jeff, he wasn't breaking through. He was not giving them enough dynamic option. He could be a serviceable running back, and I honestly think he's going to do well in Miami, since he's been traded to Miami. But he's not Christian McCaffrey, and it's absurd that you even bring him up in the same conversation. There are very few running backs in the NFL that can do what McCaffrey did. And yes, he's been hurt the last couple of years, but also you could go on the offside of that, and he hasn't had the wear and tear on his body for the last couple of years because he has been out hurt. So if he can maintain, health, and if they don't wear him into the ground, because if you remember how many touches he was getting per game, running backs just can't do that unless they're built like Derrick Henry, where he's an offensive lineman that can run a 4.4. So
I mean, people in college were trying to recruit Henry coming out of high school as a defensive end.
I bet he would actually be a pretty darn good defensive end.
Well, he said no, he didn't want to hit people.
He hits people just fine.
Yeah.
But I don't think that you can just look at the statistics and say, well, this person has 10 less yards and this person has 17 less yards and this person has, because depending upon the running formation that you're in, your style of run, the quality of your offensive line, it's unfair to put them up against one another. That's why everybody talks who are the greatest 5 quarterbacks of all time, and they're all going to be different. I mean, you're going to have a couple that are in that, but other than that, they're going to be different because they played at different times with different players, different coaches, and so they had different opportunities. So statistics are great. They're great for fantasy football. They're, I guess, great for betting, but you can't judge a trade on statistics. You have to wait until you see what happens. And if they win the Super Bowl, then it was all worth it. Because where are they going to be at next year? You don't know. You don't know how many of these players are going to be back next year.
Coaches.
You've got to sign Bosa. You have a big nut to crack there. You just paid Debo a ton of money. You're gonna have to pay some of these other players. So you don't know where this defense is going to be next year. So by taking the shot, and it's a big shot, if they get that Super Bowl, it was all worthwhile.
Do you think it's a Super Bowl caliber team?
Well, let's break it down. Top 1-2 defenses in the league currently, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. Offensively, they've got
inept.
They've got 2 pretty dynamic receivers. Debo is more of a gadget man, but they've got 2 guys that are pretty dynamic. Okay. Kittle is one of the better tight ends in the league, top 5. You can, juggle him however you want.
But you have to be worried about his health.
I was just going to say, I would not put him at number 2 like we always talk about with him, just because of his health. But, when he's on the field, he's making an impact. The running back, Christian McCaffrey, top 5 back in the league. Their line is getting better. They're getting healthier. So their only question is at quarterback. And guess what? The quarterback that is playing there right now was the same quarterback that got them to the championship game last year. And it wasn't his fault that they lost.
They got there a lot part due to bad weather in Green Bay, though. You play that game 10 times, 10 times. Do they beat the Packers all 10 times? Do they win the majority?
Probably. And the reason I don't think you can blame it on the weather. I think you blame it on the play calling.
Oh.
You have one of the most dynamic backs in the NFC, and that 1-2 punch. If you use Jones and Dillon, that 1-2 punch is pretty scary. You had outside receivers. They had it all. They had a pretty good offensive line, but they just decided to go into chuck it mode, and the secondary wasn't allowing it. That's the same thing that keeps happening every year with Aaron Rodgers when they get into the playoff with LaFleur. It's the same thing. When they stop being able to, basically dictate how the game's going to be played, they kind of choke. And so the 49ers defense dictates how the offense is going to play. And they've been doing it all year long. The only team that they struggled with is one of the two best teams in the NFL currently. I know that there's only one undefeated team, but I still say the Buffalo and KC are the two best teams in the NFL. So I say that right now the 49ers are not only a playoff team, but a Super Bowl contending team.
You just said why I'm not putting them in a Super Bowl contending bubble, because they can't beat the Chiefs or Bills. They need both those teams to lose.
They don't have to beat the Chiefs or the Bills to get into the Super Bowl.
But you need to win it in order for this trade to be a success.
I completely agree with you.
Then you have to beat either the Chiefs or Bills. They don't stack up.
This offense is only going to get better once you expand McCaffrey's role. He wasn't. I mean, he was in there for like 15 minutes and a cup of coffee prior to the game against KC, and he still played pretty well for his limited snaps. So this is going to allow Shanahan to dictate tempo on against offenses and defenses, and I think it'll be different. I honestly think that getting him, if he stays healthy, won them the NFC West.
Okay. Let's move on, though, or else we're going to be talking about this for the rest of the time. Roquan Smith to Baltimore. What was your instant reaction?
Not surprised that they did it. I would have liked to have seen a couple other teams go after him. Seattle being one of them. I thought him inside with Brooks would have eliminated a lot of the shortcomings that Seattle had, but I can completely understand with the draft capital that was taken, and he's going to take a sizable paycheck next year. It might end up being a rental if they do end up signing Lamar, because Lamar's going to be a huge deal. So,
yep. Like to move for them, improves their defense. I just don't think this team's good enough. The Bears traded a second-round pick to the Steelers for Chase Claypool, and it was their own pick. What were your thoughts on that move?
I thought it was a pretty good move. I mean, obviously, you need receiver help. He doesn't really have a lot of receivers to throw to by meaning Fields. They've started to try to open up the offense a little bit, going actually a little more, Lamar-esque, where he's got some designed runs. And doing that, the secondary is now actually going to have to be, kind of spotlighting and seeing if he's going to be running, which is going to allow the receivers to get open a little bit more. And Claypool's a big target. He does like to go up and get him. So
he does not. He is not a good jump ball catcher. He is not. That stigma needs to die. He is bad at it.
We'll see what happens with a new quarterback.
This was an overpayment by Chicago. I'm just going to tell you straight up. Chase Claypool was worth a 4th-round pick. That's where you cap the volume at. I don't know why two teams offered 2-2. Two teams offered a 2. I don't get it. I think it's stupid. And I'm going to be proven right at the end of the day, because what everyone thinks Chase Claypool is, he's not. He's not good at jumping and catching the ball. He slips all the time when he's trying to run a route. He jumps to catch everything. And I'm not joking, he leaves his feet on simple slants and falls down immediately. This is not a good wide receiver as people think. He's talented, he has all the tools, but that's what he is. He's got the tools. But let's move on. The Denver Broncos, and this was big, trade Bradley Chubb and a 5th-round pick to the Miami Dolphins for a 2023 first, the San Francisco 49ers, a 2024 fourth, and Chase Edmonds.
I love this move.
For who? Because I don't like it for Denver.
I love this move for Denver.
Okay,
The reason why
I don't like it for Denver because I feel like this could have been avoidable if you didn't overpay Randy Gregory. Because Bradley Chubb is a much better player than Randy Gregory, but you signed him to a massive, bloated contract for his skill set.
Here's the reason why I love this move for Denver. And it's twofold.
It makes them
One,
worse so your team gets a better first-round pick.
Well, that's one. That's absolutely true. Because Seattle gets their first-round pick and their second-round pick. All right? But two.
Wait, they get their second as well?
Yes.
George Paton's going to be fired.
So you get a pick for him, right? And the thing is Miami's going to be a playoff team, but Denver's not going anywhere this year. He gave them the most compensation to trade away. I'm surprised that they didn't trade Judy away as well because I know the Giants were looking for him.
Packers as well, I believe.
Yeah, I had not heard. I had not heard that, but I had heard that the Giants were really in on him. So, one of the things though is he was, without completely gutting your team and getting rid of multiple players, he was the biggest bang for your buck. So he did them the most good. And like I said, they're not going to be relevant this year anyway. So why not at least get something that might help you, build the team better for next year? And like I said, Seattle gets their first and second round picks. So, bully for me.
Okay, Jeff Wilson traded to the Miami Dolphins for a 5th-round pick. It's an easy slam dunk trade for the Dolphins.
I think honestly, it works out better both. San Francisco's recouping a little bit of draft, but the Dolphins get something because they just set Chase Edmonds away. So now they have Wilson, who's familiar with the offense. Remember, it's the same offense he ran last year. So,
which is why I love this deal for them more than the Bradley Chubb. And this is not a shot against Bradley Chubb, because I just called the Broncos idiots for trading him. I do not like this Dolphins offense as much as everyone else does, because when I watch it, I see the issues when they play against teams that are well coached defensively or have the defensive talent. They need a running back, and Jeff Wilson we have seen him be a very good to elite level running back in that system. Calvin Ridley traded to the Jags, and there's a lot of things to go into this, but the Falcons get a 5th in 2023 and a 4th in 2024 with conditions. Now, the conditions get a little weird. On the 2024 4th round, going from the Jags to the Falcons per source, and this from Adam Schefter completely. If I'm wrong, blame Schefter. If stays as a 4th if Calvin Ridley is on the roster, it goes to a 3 if Calvin Ridley reaches certain incentives, and becomes a 2 if the Jaguars sign Calvin Ridley to an extension.
That's just insane. I think Calvin Ridley has got so much talent, but he not only did he screw up with the betting, and I know, how he bet and everything else, but the other problem is he came out and he's been kind of vocal about it since then. And it's like, I just don't know if he really learned a lesson. And so I don't think Jacksonville made the right move here.
I love it for Jacksonville.
It's absolutely great for Atlanta.
So here's the thing. He's been joking about this, but it's been pretty well thought out shots. Because what was the time he brought it up? Because he accepted suspension. He didn't complain. What was when he brought up the suspension? Do you know?
Uh, yeah, during the Deshaun hearings.
Exactly. Which, okay, there's no way around this to not sound icky. There is worse stuff for the NFL if Calvin Ridley bets on games than with what Sean Watson did as a league financially. Morally, if what Watson did is beyond messed up. I'm saying that right here and right now. So I understand Ridley being like, I only bet he did that. And I can understand as a moral person, that makes you feel icky that you got suspended longer than he did. I understand that. I'm sure you do as well. But as a league, they have to protect their investments. And a big, big investment is Vegas. And you need to protect that. So it sucks for Ridley.
Well, just think about how much betting goes on for NFL games.
Oh, yeah. You know? And it's awesome.
And if you're going to suspect that players are taking an active role, and nobody's inferring that, but the thing is you have to cut that out right then and there. And so that's going to be a harsh. We all know what Watson did that was wrong. And, you know, the argument can be said that he should never play football again. I honestly, in my opinion, think that in some, even if they're star players, some of these punishments have to be just, you know, forever bans. And
they should be, like the NBA does. The NBA is a very player-oriented league, but when you do something wrong, they hit you with the ban hammer. But we have other trades to talk about. Zach Moss in a conditional 6th-round pick to the Colts for Nyheim Hines to the Bills. I love this deal. Nyheim Hines is a weapon out of the backfield, both as a runner and a receiver. He is fast as lightning, and with Josh Allen in the backfield, this is fireworks territory. What are your thoughts on the deal?
I think it's a good deal. Honestly, for both sides too. Moss wasn't getting played, you know, and so, you know, this at least allowed him to you know, get potentially some playing time. And just like you said, it makes Buffalo so much more explosive because he's automatically the third down back now. And
he's probably their every down back.
I don't know about that.
Oh, yeah, you do have Singletary, but man.
You do have Singletary. But you think about it. They're going to, on, say, 3rd, 5, or whatever else, you're going to have him out of the flat as a potential. You're going to stretch the defense. The secondary is not going to be able to come down because you still have to worry about Diggs, you know,
Gabriel Davis
over the top and Davis over the top. So, yeah, I just think that this is a slam dunk trade for both sides. You know, not too often do both teams win, and I really think that this is one of those where both teams did win.
Okay. I'm going to cap this off with 2 minor trades. Well, actually, no, there was one more trade we have to talk about, but I'll pull those details up because they're not here exactly. Rashad Fenton to the Falcons. Makes sense. The Chiefs didn't really have a need for him anymore, and the Falcons are playing practice squads as their starting corners. And the Bills acquired Dean Marlowe from the Falcons in exchange for a 2023 7th. What are your 2 thoughts on those deals while I look up the other one?
You know, the Marlowe trade, I don't really know a lot about him as a player, so I think it might just be, you know, a situational thing. I actually liked Fenton and seeing what he was doing. You know, so I think that it's going to be a good trade. Dean Pease is such a great defensive mind. I think he's gonna do well with Fenton.
Okay, yeah. Trade details are not fun to find, apparently. I'll just say it real quick while I still look for the details. What are your thoughts about William Jackson III being traded to Pittsburgh?
You know, I'm kind of surprised that Pittsburgh does that because, you know, the disgruntlements, there were some issues behind the scenes. That's not usually somebody Pittsburgh goes after. I do get that they need depth. And I mean, when he's on the field, if he's not, being a basket case, he's a good player. But like I said, that's not the normal Rooney go-to.
Okay. So I have the full details. William Jackson, a 2025 conditional 7th round pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers exchange for a 2025 conditional 6th round pick. This is nothing. He's under contract for another year. And here's what a lot of people probably don't remember. The Steelers loved him coming out of the draft. They wanted him so bad. And the Bengals took him, I believe it was 2 to 3 picks prior to them, and they drafted Artie Burns then, because William Jackson was the guy they wanted. And they want to play a lot of man coverage. That's what William Jackson's specialty is. I like this move. I don't know how much of a head case thing this is, because I look at a lot of this stuff. A lot of guys nowadays realize, if I want to get traded, just be as crazy as possible. I think a lot of people want to add to Washington, but we're going to talk about that in a second here. But I think William Jackson helps the Steelers defense out a lot. And here's the thing. This is not a rental. He's coming back under contract for next year as well. That is huge. And a team that's going to be getting TJ Watt, Devontae KZ back here after the bye week, this defense is going to get much better. But I want to switch it up. Let's stay in Washington. Some pretty breaking news came out this morning. Wouldn't you say so?
I'd say so. I think it's good for the league. So
Dan Snyder is reportedly looking to potentially sell the Washington Commanders or bring in a minority owner.
I think that if this progresses, I think he'll just sell. What good is bringing in a minority owner? Because he's not going to have full say anyway.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't do anything.
Well, here's the thing, and why I believe this is going to a 100% sale route. Dan Snyder hires Bank of America to sell the Washington Commanders. You don't hire Bank of unless you're preparing to sell the whole thing, because this is a big chunk of cash. I don't know how much the Washington Commanders are listed as right now. I'm assuming at minimum $1 billion, probably a lot more.
Oh, they've got to be in the $5 billion range.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. Listen, hey, if you're getting fired from your job, that's a not bad severance package. But you look at the team saying, I'm not going to speculate who's going to buy the Commanders. I know everyone's saying Bezos. He won't be allowed to buy, I don't believe, due to the Amazon partnership. I don't believe he'll be allowed to. But there are reports there are 4 people that have contacted Snyder that have let them know they're interested in all that. And I think we see a deal done by 2023. What do you think?
I think that getting it done the sooner rather than later is the best thing for the league. Mm-hmm.
And this also is great news for everyone who is not an NFC East fan, unless you're a Washington fan, because football is better if Washington's good. The Hogs were a part of the 80s for a reason. This is a football city. It is a big time football market. If they're better, if they are good, it's great for the league. It sucks if you're an Eagles fan. It sucks if you're a Giants fan. It sucks if you're a Cowboys fan, because they were ran so poorly for so long that it was like, oh, we're in the division of Washington. That's 2 wins. We're good. And here's the thing, though, too. We have Ron Rivera, who actually, the last job he had, he got removed because the new owner decided to fire him and hire Matt Rule. That turned out great for him. But Ron Rivera is a great coach. He's a great locker room guy. He'll get his players in the right spot. Because no matter what, at the end of the day, when there's a new guy coming in, no matter what your job is, you're going to be worried about your spot. Nothing's for certain. And Ron Rivera knows how to handle that. I'm sure he's worried about his spot as well, but any new owner coming in the league should be like, I got Riverboat Ron's my head coach. I'm in a good spot already. I think this is great for the league again, and I do think Washington's on the up and up if this rumor is true and Dan Snyder sells the team. And also, change the name. The Commanders suck. Got anything to add?
Tell us how you really feel about that. I think that if an owner takes the full thing, they've kind of got a clean house altogether. And who knows with the cancer and everything else, you know, Ron may just decide to go into the booth on
Oh,
Sundays,
that just
which
sucks.
would be great anyway. So, I think all in all, it's good for the league. Of course, there'll be some coaching changes and everything else, but that's just the business of football.
Yeah. But
So
it's
let's do some
yep.
picks.
Real quick, I'm sure this will take us around 5 seconds to choose. Eagles Texans. Eagles.
Eagles.
As my phone loads up the games, why do you think the Eagles are going to beat the Texans?
Because they're just a better team.
Fair enough.
I mean,
fair enough.
Nothing else really needs to be said. I mean, I just look. The Texans laid an egg last week, and the Eagles put a hurt locker on arguably a hurt defense and an offense that still is struggling to find its way. But it's still the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
So.
Actually, the Steelers have never won in Philadelphia. They've been blown out the last 5 times in Philadelphia. Fun fact. Now listen, here's the thing. Weird stuff happened on Thursday night. They could fly down to Houston and lay an egg. It would not surprise me because weird stuff happens on Thursday night. I would like a good football game, but I'm not expecting that. Chargers at the Falcons. Give me the Falcons here.
I think I'm going to take the Chargers simply because their receiving core is coming back healthy. And so I just think that this is going to be one of those games where it's going to be a track meet, and they don't have, Atlanta doesn't really have the pieces to keep up in a track meet.
Okay.
Yet.
I'm going to take this to hockey for a split second. Couple weeks ago, the Toronto Maple Leafs lost to the Arizona Coyotes, a team that is practically fielding a minor league roster because they're trying to tank outright. Someone said if there's a way to lose embarrassing, the Toronto Maple Leafs will find the most embarrassing way to lose. They did. If there's a way to have an embarrassing loss, the Chargers will find a way to make that happen. And there is a way. Young Hoku, the kicker for the Falcons. Do you know who his first ever NFL team was?
I'm going with the Chargers.
The Chargers. They cut him after 2 weeks about missing two to three kicks. I can't remember how many kicks it was. But the Young Hoku is the third most accurate kicker of all time. Give me the Chargers on Young Hoku winning by them only kicking field goals. Dolphins at the Bears.
I'm going to go Dolphins.
I'd agree. Give me the Dolphins. Panthers at the Bengals.
I'm going to go Bengals.
I'm going to go them as well, even though I don't have as much confidence after Monday night. Packers at the Lions.
I have a feeling you're going Lions. I'm going to go Packers.
I'm going Packers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Raiders at the Jaguars.
Both these teams keep letting me down. So, I think I'm going to go with the Raiders.
One of these teams has let me down, mostly because I didn't expect much from the other team. Give me the Jaguars, even though I don't have much faith. Colts at the Patriots.
Patriots.
I agree, Patriots. Bills at the Jets. Buffalo to cover.
Yeah. I'm going to pick them to cover as well.
I don't know what the point spread is, so I'm just picking it.
I think it was 13.5.
Oof. Vikings at the Commanders.
I'm going to take the Vikings, but the Commanders have been scrappy the last couple of weeks with Heineke, so I would not be surprised if it went different.
So I want to see the Vikings win this division as fast as possible so we can just write Green Bay off. Give me the Vikings. Seahawks at Arizona, and nothing weird is possibly allowed to happen this game.
I'm going to go Seahawks, but just like you said, this is the This is the weirdest place for Seattle to play because something always does happen. So
Give me the Seahawks as well. If I could, I'd predict a tie. Rams at the Bucks.
I'm going to go Rams.
I'm going to go Bucks. Both teams are struggling majorly. Titans at the Chiefs. Give me the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah.
And the Monday night game, Ravens at the Saints. Give me Baltimore and give me 35 points.
I think I'll take Baltimore as well.
How many points?
Just so I'm not going one over you, I'm going to go 41.
Okay. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this week. I'm sorry, like I said, if the audio is a little bit different. You had to change it up. Stuff happens. But we'll be back next week. And we will be reviewing. Care to guess what game?
No, I can't.
We will be reviewing Vikings Commanders.
Commanders 2 out of 3 weeks.
Listen, let's keep the good news going. They're getting rid of Dan Snyder. Let's keep it going. Let alone, as you said, this will be a scrappy game.
All right, sounds good.
Everyone, thank you for tuning in, and be safe, everyone.